Hello, I'm Chad Neesmith, Portfolio Manager at Tobias Financial Advisors, here with a brief market update and answering a question that I'm getting from clients more and more now that we've gotten some a recent uptick in prices. There's a little bit of an inflation scare in the market right now. So I do want to talk about inflation. A lot of the inflation concerns are brought upon the tariffs that Trump has enacted, 25% for Canada and 25% for Mexico, 10% for China. I think a lot of these the effects are overblown. I think there's a lot of things that are also deflationary within the economy that are putting downward pressure on inflation, and we're going to talk about that in this video. But the tariffs are inflationary by a fact. When you reduce trade and you reduce supply, it is an inflationary event. But it's being offset somewhat by other things, being offset by less regulation in fossil fuels, so more drilling, lower energy prices, governmental cuts. DOGE is coming in and cutting a lot of government spending, and so whenever you get a reduction in government spending, you're going to get lower inflation and lower prices because of that. And also what's happening in the labor market is really interesting. You've got less people quitting their jobs, but also less people getting hired, so there's less turnover within the labor market, and that puts downward pressure on wages. However, with the increase in deportations, there's going to be a lower labor supply. So with less people looking for jobs, it's going to put upward pressure on wages. It's going to be interesting to watch those two dynamics play out against each other. But we're seeing almost a wash right now within the labor market because of those two factors. Coming up, I have a slide to talk about some more factors. We'll see in the slide. Here is the slide on inflation that you've seen probably 100 times from me at this point, but we're going back in time a little bit farther. This actually starts in January of 2018, so you can see how inflation has stayed flat over the course of a few years before COVID happened. But we're looking at recent data, so the last 6 or 7 months. So those last 6 or 7 bars on the right side of your screen is kind of what we're paying attention to. In the orange, you can see goods prices. There was deflation, meaning prices were coming down. And you were getting cheaper TVs, you were getting cheaper mattresses. Certain items were less expensive today than they were yesterday, but they're coming down at a lesser extent, and now they're about flat year over year. And so we are seeing prices re-accelerate within the goods category, and that is generally a leading indicator with inflation. Offset from that are what's called lagging effects, and we're seeing that within auto insurance and home prices. We're seeing a lot of downward pressure in home prices, given where they ran up during COVID. And I know from my personal experience in my own neighborhood, home prices have stagnated in South Florida, in my little bubble of South Florida. But what we're seeing in Washington, D.C. is really interesting with all of the federal government layoffs. Supply is really picking up, and home prices are really falling within the city of Washington, D.C. So I don't think it's going to be as extreme across the country as we're seeing in D.C. because real estate markets are fragmented, and every market's its own little pocket. But it's something that I think that we're going to see home prices and rents not really do much for a while. I mean, they may stay relatively flat, or they may fall just a little bit over time. So those are things that are pushing inflation down. When you put all these factors together, I think that inflation generally has downward pressure given the tariffs even, but there's a lot more things that are pushing inflation down than are bringing it up. I think inflation is going to continue to trend downward toward that 2% goal, and it's not something we're necessarily worried about in portfolios. Thank you so much for watching this market update, and we'll see you in the next one.